You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices with Vicki McManus-Peterson and Dr. Chad Johnson.
Hey everybody, welcome to Everyday Practices. This is Vicki McManus and Chad Johnson here with Dr. Emily Letran. Hi, Dr. Emily.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's such an honor to be on this podcast. I've been following you and following Dr. Bruce Bear and Vicki, and had the pleasure of meeting him, I think 2 years ago at Townie.
Oh, okay.
It's been so exciting, and I'm so honored to be able to share some of my input about how to be a high performer with your podcast audience.
Well, I have to admit, Dr. Vicki, when I was doing my homework when I was doing my homework with Dr. Letran here, I noticed that surely, and I jest here, surely she's not an A top performer kind of person. Did you get that feeling too when you were looking over her bio?
Oh, like Dr. Letran?
Yes.
Oh, she's a total top performer. She's just, and you know what, Dr. Emily, you bring it across with such grace and such fluidity. You make it seem easy. And so I really want to, in our short time today, kind of dig in to where your taproot is. Like, how do you tap in when times are tough? Your book, From Refugee to Renaissance Woman, that's on my next read list, right? And I'm so intrigued by the title. You're such a true hero of mine, and you're so successful. So can you share with us, we'll just start big picture. If anybody's listening right now and they're going through a tough time and they're thinking, man, I just don't know if this is worth it. It's too hard. And I love the way you described it before our call. My prima donna hygienist is giving me some pushback and the industry's just getting a little too tough. What advice do you give people?
Well, Dr. Robert Schuller say, tough times never last, but tough people do. And I really live by that. I would say, in a way, I've been blessed. I actually grew up in Vietnam back in the late 60s. That's during the Vietnam War. And so growing up, basically what I remember was having the loving family and, seeing a lot of war images on TV. Back then, the TV was, of course, black and white. Watching war images, it could be bombing, it could be dead bodies, people always fleeing villages. My family kept telling me that my mom was pregnant, running around to bomb shelter. My mom was pregnant with me while she was running around to bomb shelter. So, these things kind of stuck in your head.
Wow.
And you grow up with that. And in 1975, the communists took over Vietnam. That's when the Vietnam War ended and the Americans left. So life just changed because with the communist government, it's Big Brother controlling, and we would stand in line to get food, whatever that we could buy, because they control everything. So as a little kid, 11, 12 years old, I used to stand in those lines to buy stale bread. Sometimes it's moldy noodle. Sometimes it's just really old rice. And I didn't realize that, there could be more, more than that, because that's what you grew up with. And when I was 8 years old, my mother passed away due to cancer. So we grow up in a very extended family. It's my dad and 4 of us kids. And then we have 2 aunts, and each one of them have children. So we grew up like that. And then in 1981, Vietnam was going to go to war again with China in the north and Cambodia in the west. This is when you watch that movie, The Killing Fields, and you see the Pol Pot, killing their people. And the Vietnamese communists basically used that as a reason to invade Cambodia. And they started drafting all the young men again, because we just finished a war in 1975, and now we at it again. So a lot of people were leaving the country, some for economic reasons, some for political reason. My aunt decided to leave. She was a pharmacist, so she took her 2 kids. She took my older brother, and she took 2 other male cousins to leave the country. And this is that boat people exodus that you might have seen. And I was a girl. I wasn't going to be drafted, but my dad told me, "You're the oldest one in the family, so you need to go help your aunt." And that's why I left the country.
Wow.
I was 13, and I never got to see my dad again, because he passed away later, and the 2 countries still did not have normal relationship. So 13 years old, that was the last time I saw my dad.
Wow.
And so I grew up living several months in the refugee camp. There are only 2 things you could do in the refugee camp. You could go swimming in the ocean because it was a deserted island, or you learn English. Those are your two choices. So I started learning more English, and I came to the United States in 1981. I tell people my luggage was hope and faith, because except for the clothes on my back, we didn't have anything. We had a cousin who had come over in 1975, so we settled down in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Lived there for 6 months. Went to school and really did not understand much, because English was my second language. And every night I would stay up to translate almost every word from English to Vietnamese, so I could understand what was being taught to me. And I knew I was starting at the bottom, so there's only one way to go, which is up. And if I could learn English and I could get into a career where I have some kind of quote unquote status, right? So I could make money and I could help the family. So I was very driven. We moved to California a couple months after, and I went to high school. I actually graduated valedictorian from high school.
Of course you did.
This is so opposite of my story.
What's funny about that is
Chad and I are both so
finished first in my
humble.
class, and then Vicky, you say that's the opposite of my story.
We're humbled by your story.
And the reason I say it's a blessing is because I think sometimes when you have no other choice, you have to push yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, you can decide to give up, but that wasn't choice. So you have to push yourself, and then eventually it sort of become part of you, where you don't really take no for an answer. You kind of get a no, and then you go find somebody else. Maybe they're going to give you a yes, and then because you're always struggling in a way, because you always want to get better. It wasn't my goal to try to be on top of the class. It was just my goal to I really have to do my best, because I want those best chances. Because to me, it's those people at the top that have the best chances, and that's how I kind of function. So I joke around and I say I finished undergrad, Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude. I finished that in 3 years, and I went to dental school, and I did a master together with my DDS degree, because I figured maybe I want to specialize. so let's just do all these things, right? And and then I came out and I bought 1 practice, 2 practice, 3 practices, got my 3 children, and always been in this kind of going mode. And so that's why I get really annoyed when people say I can't do it.
I was going to ask, do you get annoyed when they, I've got an article coming out in Do Magazine and Dental Women's Dental Entrepreneur Magazine, and the title is "Scarcity is Your Key to Abundance." And I think
that's good,
right? People don't understand. They use I don't have this, I don't have that as their reason for not doing more. And I'm like, you don't understand. those are valuable limits. You take my ink pen, it's valuable because it has limits, and I can put it in my hand and I can use it if I doubled it. Or like, people think abundance is having everything in the world, like Fort Knox at my doorstep, but that's really not abundance. You created abundance in your life because you started from where you were at and you used it to work against it, to say, I'm going to overcome this. This doesn't have to be my destiny. What a role model.
Yes, and the reason I say it's a blessing is because as I'm going along the way and I'm trying to learn from, people who go ahead of me. I remember back in, I bought my first practice in 1997, and I was reading Profitable Dentist, right? I was reading those newsletter. I was reading the Richards Report. Dr. Farhan has just started Dental Town, and like, I'm following those people that I say, hey, they got something good going on. Let me go learn from that. And it's always, how do I get to be better? But I don't have to figure everything out myself. I should just model somebody. And now when I'm coaching clients, that's usually the one thing that I ask them. First is what is it that you actually want, and what have you done to try to solve that or get to that? Because sometimes it just I don't know. That's the answer I get, and sometimes I get frustrated because all you need now, there's so much information at your fingertips, and people don't go look for it.
How do you sort through it all, though? Do you think we have too much information, Dr. Letran?
I think so. That's part of when I talk to people about productivity. We got everything we can get instantly. You can have all of these high-tech equipment, right? Where you do it faster, easier once you get the training. Talk about X-ray, right? Now you got instant X-ray. You don't have to wait, 7 minutes?
I remember that. I started out with the dip tanks, and you had to wait for them to dry.
Yes, I know. When I was in dental school, we did the dip tank, and I think now we actually have that, automatic roller thing. And
yes.
I think it was 7 minutes. So I told the staff, you have 17 minutes because it's 10 minutes for you to take the X-ray and 7 minutes for it to go through. And now it's instant.
It's instant.
And if you think about it, people are still complaining they're running behind, and that they're too busy. They have all these excuses, and it's really being very intentional about your time. If you have a goal, then you just don't let people distract you. Like yesterday, it's kind of funny because somebody said something not nice to me. And I was actually pretty upset. And I called a couple of friends just to share, because we have, kind of like in a mutual group. And I think it was around 1 o'clock when I talked to this one friend, and she said, when did you say this happened? And I said at 9 o'clock. And she said, well, you sound pretty fine to me. You can just laugh about it. And I said, yeah, I call you at 9:30. It's just you're getting back to me at 1. And I still have to tell you, but I'm over it. I don't need those. I don't need the negative energy. I don't need people around me who are not supporting me. And if I'm very clear in what I want to do, I'm just going to go charge my way, right? And so that's how I go through things. That's how I decide what I'm going to do, and not be so, quote, busy, but not really accomplish what I set out to do. One of my favorite when I'm doing these events is people say, well, can you come to my hometown and do your event? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, are you kidding me? and I would tell them, it's very hard to invite speakers to all come. So you want to come to the event to see the speakers. This is not a musical show where I'm going to go around to different
Dr. Emily Letran, off Broadway in 23 cities.
And I can't tell you how many people ask me that. Well, when are you going to go to Northern California? When are you going to go to the East Coast? And I said, hey, I was in Northern California last January. I was in Florida in December. Well, where were you? You make a point to go and learn. And it all has to do with the intention, which go back to the clarity is what is it that you want? And how serious are you to get to that? Because there's so many people saying, I want A and I want B and I want C. And when you actually ask them, they've done nothing to get to A, B, and C. But they will broadcast, these are their dreams and whatever it is, and they don't get to it because they're not taking action. And sometimes that doesn't mean just me doing all the action. I can leverage. I can get a coach. I can get a mentor, somebody who teach me how to do it faster, right? I don't have to figure things out myself.
I love that. And I love that you make the distinction between busyness and productivity. And I think that's one of sometimes when people hear the Productive Dentist Academy, they get really scared. They think, oh my God, they're going to come in here and speed us up and it's all about money and it's all about that. But I think you defined it really well, that productivity is, it's more about intention and relationship. So I have an intention and this is what I'm going to do, what I said I'm going to do. And I'm going to align with people that are aligned with that dream and that vision and that goal so that we move very appropriately. We've got authentic action. It doesn't feel stressful. And Chad, I think you've said that many times that you're less stressful now, being twice as productive as you were 4 years ago.
That's true. Yeah. And I do have a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm kicking my feet up. But at the same time, if back then you said, okay, you're going to produce twice as much. And I'd be like, you mean I'm going to be twice as busy? Oh, no. I'm not saying you're going to be twice as busy.
We're actually going to slow you down.
Right. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Do you find that's true, Dr. Letran, with your experience with productivity?
Yeah, well, there are different ways to increase your productivity, right? And it's not always about speed. I was talking to a doctor last night, and I told her, look at the if you want to be more productive, look at the procedures that you do that are more profitable, and you focus on those. If you're talking about your collection number, and she was doing different ways of marketing for the practice, and I asked her to figure out the ROI for each, because of course a lot of people, they just do it, but they just don't know what the ROI is. So then how am I supposed to talk to you about which one to pick and which one to focus on? But if you focus on the one that gives you the most ROI or maybe take you the least amount of time and give you the most value, you just instantly become productive rather than trying to do everything more, because it's just not possible. And we have kids, there's life outside the office for most of us.
No way. There's a life outside the operatory?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
This is breaking news.
Yeah, well, for the listeners, just so they know, Dr. Emily also has 3 children. Dr. Emily, can you tell us about that?
Oh, yes. Right now, there's only 2 living at home. The oldest is almost 23. She will be starting dental school in September.
Great, congrats.
So she's in her transition year because she decided to take a gap year against her mother's advice. I go, what do you mean a gap year? We're supposed
She
to
only have 4 jobs. She only have 4 jobs and 3 internships.
What a black sheep of the family.
Actually, she does teaching in the for half a day every day at Sylvan Learning Center.
That's great.
Yeah, that's her thing. And my youngest is 16 years old. He is a junior in high school. He is already an Amazon bestseller.
Wow.
He actually wrote a book on teenage bullying. And I reached out to my network and said, hey, everybody go buy the book. And we became a bestseller.
Yeah.
My middle son just started accelerated pharmacy at Chapman University. So he's actually living on campus. So
great.
Those are 3 kids, but for 17 years before they get into high school, my schedule was getting up in the morning, take them to either the school or babysitter, drop them off there. Then I go to work. I work from 9 to 2. Then I take off from 2 to 4. to go pick them up from school and take them to the babysitter. Then I go back to work, and I work from 4 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 17 years until when they get into high school. We live a block and a half from the high school, so you're on your own. You gotta go across the street on your own when you're in high school. But I've always done that. That's why I get frustrated when people say they don't have time, and I say, I don't know. I don't know that. It was very intentional. It was, patient at 1 o'clock. You better get numb so I can work, so I can leave. And I did that for many, many years. And all of my patients know that Dr. Letran take off in the middle of the day to go pick up her kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. What a great role model for life balance. You really can have it all, but you have to plan it out and you have to manage that well.
Yeah, and you have to be intentional about it, and you have to let people know, and you need to tell people that this is important to you, so they need to support you.
Yeah, I remember when I first started coaching, and my clients would want to have phone calls at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And after about 6 months of that, I finally just spoke up and I said, I have 2 small children. This is my family time. This is when I read books. This is when we have dinner. This is when I give them a bath. And quite honestly, you're not getting my best at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So
Isn't that the truth?
So why don't we do business during business hours, and you'll get a better outcome? And immediately they all went, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Of course, that makes sense. You have this fear of, well, I need to do what the patient says, let them come when they want to come, or the team or your clients. And the reality is that people really do respect and honor boundaries, especially value-driven boundaries. In fact, they're looking for those,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think that's part of the courage that I talk about, because there's so many of us that say, we want this, we want that. And when it actually comes time to pulling the trigger, we say, well, we may hurt so-and-so feeling, then maybe we shouldn't say that, or we don't demand that. But for me, if you know exactly what you're doing, and you're being ethical, you're in line with your values, you should be able to tell the whole world, right, what you want to do, what's important to you, and then expect people to support you. And then if they don't support you, then just don't hang out with them. They're just gonna distract you. That's what it is. And I tell you,
Yeah.
it was funny. I did an event in Dallas, and the night before, I said, let's get together at Dr. Nathan's house, because he said he was gonna host for dinner. So I said, okay, I'll sponsor the food, and there's like 10 of us getting over there. And then I said, and I had told everybody ahead of time, we're going to go around in a circle and everybody say what they want, right? Like, what are you looking for at this event? So the rest of us can support you. And all 10 of them started saying, the reason I'm here is because of Emily. And by the time the third person say it, I go, wait a minute, that wasn't what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to say what you're looking for, right? For the event. And then that's when I realized that how blessed I am to be able to bring people around me, and they are supporting me, not me personally, but like me on what I'm trying to do, which is to get the words out, to get people to live a little bit more realistically. When they set goal, they actually are serious about it. When they make an appointment for themselves, like I'm going to go to the spa, or I'm going to do exercise, they actually don't break the appointment with themselves. They respect themselves just like they're trying to respect the patient.
That's huge. That's huge. So, Dr. Emily, with all that you have done, what is your current passion? What are you really putting your time and energy towards right now?
Well, my passion is to get rid of whiners.
I used to say that WWW, you'll love this, Chad. I used to say WWW stood for the winners, the whiners, and the Walking Dead. Boycotting whiners.
I'm really passionate in changing the industry, to get people to think and act as high performers. And some of the things we talk about, it sounds so much common sense, but common sense is not common practice. Everybody talk about productivity, and then everybody complain that they don't have time. It just makes no sense to me. Because if you say you're being productive, then you should not be the one complaining that you don't have time. And I see that every day, around me, and talking to my friends and in Facebook groups and things like that. And I want to change that conversation. I want to change people in that sense, to however they are comfortable with. So that's why the angle that I go into talk is usually, how to control stress, right? And then it's not going to be yoga and meditation. It's actually going to be those intentions and being real clear on what you want, and protect your time so you can only be productive when you want to be productive. When you go into the office and you say you're going to see patient from 9 to 1, then just see patient from 9 to 1. You're not taking phone calls. You're not entertaining vendors or patients who talk too much. If a patient talk too much, I give them my 5 minutes or so, and then they get transferred to the staff, because I just I need to be productive.
I bet you do. I'd actually like to see video of that. That would be interesting.
One of the doctors who taught at UCLA, he said, you can talk as much as you want, as long as your hands are in somebody's mouth.
Right.
And back then it's just like, what do you mean?
You'll find out.
I've heard the phrase that all of our patients deserve our respect equally, but they don't deserve our time equally.
Oh, that's a great one. That's
right. And so it sounds like you're very respectful and you're very upfront, and you've got this agreement with your patient. I'm here acting in the role of your dentist, and we used to call it bar talk. It's like, I love you so much. Meet me for a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and we'll chat. But I love how you say, your stress management is just be present, be here, be in the moment, be intentional, be focused. When you're with the patient, be the patient. Don't worry about what's going on in Facebook or Dental Town. Be here. And that's what Bruce says too. Bruce could not, I talked to Bruce. Bruce produced 40,000 yesterday and 39 the day before. Now, how does he do that? Well, he markets towards Trainwreck, so that's what walks in the building. But he's also trained his team, and he delegates. Chad, you've been in the office, and you don't get to be that productive if you're doing a shoddy job, because then you spend all your time remaking everything.
Cleaning it up.
So very capable in their clinical skills. They know their outcome before they start. They've trained their team to know the outcome before they start, and then they just get after it. So you do conscious sedation and you prep out a case, and somebody's doing CIREC units while you move on to the next thing. And he has always said he would not be that productive if he were working 4 days a week. So he puts it all in 2 days a week, and he kind of wrecks his body, and then he goes home and, recovers. But it's very intentional. It's very by design. So I love that you bring that distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think, and everybody would tell you that they know that, but my point is, okay, so now do it.
Yeah, you've also said, what did you say? You said common sense is not common practice.
Yes, because people, you talk about it and they say, yes, I know, I plan to do that, and I said, okay, by what date?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I'm a Letran fan. I am going to I might tattoo some of these phrases on some concealed body part.
And I think really, if you are always pushing yourself and you know that you're trying to do your best, you're always, that's just the way you live your life, whether you're doing it in your personal life or in your professional life. It's going to be very hard for somebody to criticize you and take you down, because you already know I'm already trying my best, right? But when you half-ass stuff and somebody catch on to it, or when you're really good, you can actually fake it,
Right.
Like I can actually fake listening to a patient.
Right.
If they go on and on and on, I can look very, I look like I'm paying attention, but I'm not. And so, but you're the only person who knows that. And if you want to be better, then you hold yourself accountable, and you always function at that higher level. And that's kind of where I want to go. That's where I want people to go. So we can just all kick it up a notch. Or two.
Well, Dr. Letran, we're going to have this in our show notes, but if people want to reach out and get connected to your work, how do they do that? How do they find out more about you?
Yeah, they can email me. It's emily@exceptionalleverage.com. They can go to my website. It's dremilyletran.com. So it's DREMILYLETRAN.com. And I have some ebooks on there. I have some online courses in there. Well, one of my one of my favorite ebook is called How to Train Your Patients. Yeah. And it's how to train your patient to be on time, how to train your patient to pay you, how to train your patient to keep their appointment. And a lot of that, we're basically talking about being very intentional, right? If you already, quote, educate your patient about what your expectations are, then you're going to get what you're after, instead of just leave it to chances.
Well, and just for the listeners too, in case they didn't catch it earlier, for Amazon or whatnot, from refugee to Renaissance woman, and a Renaissance woman you are. This is impressive. I've enjoyed talking with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so blessed to be able to share a little bit of my story and what's bothering me.
Well, hey, so. One silly question at the end, but we're kind of curious on dietary. So you tell me your choice between the two of them. It's just one or the other, okay?
Okay.
Bacon or eggs?
Eggs.
Sold.
Okay.
Well, again, everybody, thanks for listening to Dr. Emily Letran today. And Vicki, thanks for joining us today too.
Yeah, this has been my pleasure. And Dr. Emily, I really am. You're going to the top of my hero list. Thank you for sharing your story today. And thank you for your levity and your outlook on life, because I was really learning about your childhood and how you grew up. You couldn't see our faces, but I think Chad and I both were getting really teary-eyed. So thank you for
it's awe-inspiring, really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really treasure the opportunity, and I hope that a couple of people thinking, maybe changing their behavior, maybe they're going to go and write a to-do list that they actually will do, right?
I love it.
Right.
And just be very intentional about their day so they can become more productive.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next episode on the podcast, Everyday Practices.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with Everyday Practices.